Hey guys, and welcome to the HISP Winter Tour Stage 2 race that I was just about to do. And it was my first race back after being quite ill. You can still hear my voice is a bit hoarse. Always I like to refer to it metro. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the race, how it went, how I did. At this stage, I did not realize that the A's and B's were riding together, or in these days, you have the groups from 520 to 690. This is the starting gate, but the groups, the groups with less power or less racing score or more racing score, the 690 plus guys were starting just next to us, and they would join us very soon. And that is kind of confusing because you don't know if the riders are in your group or not. Doesn't really matter. It makes it more exciting, but it makes it hard. And this is my first race back, so let's look and see how I go. Basically, I did not know the course. I saw the course at a distance before the race started, but I did not realize we're going to go straight up and climb. So I wasn't really warmed up properly because I've been a bit sick. I thought, well, I was thinking about bailing out if I felt bad. So to be honest, I wasn't well prepared. If you guys know where you can really see the course and the direction of the route and exactly how they're going to ride and where to find that on Zwift beforehand, please let me know in the comments. I will appreciate that. Thank you very much. So first things first, we went straight up this Summit South, which is not really a big climb, but it was quite a shock for the system because the legs weren't well warmed up. But this is not the kind of climb that I can be dropped very easily. So at this stage, we are being joined by the A's. So you might see some guys coming through. I call them A's, but basically they're just guys with a racing score above 690, whereas my racing score is 570. So that makes the racing quite hard, and slowly but surely they're coming through from behind. And one thing I do have on Zwift at the moment is that I seem to struggle to see properly what's going on in the race, and that's why this time I wore glasses, but there was also a bit of a problem because they fogged up. But anyway, if I would be able to see properly and look at the names on the right of the screen, I could have figured out that there were A's or and higher category guys riding and racing with us, because we have the Polish chap of Cryogen riding there as well, and he's an A, so I could have known that, but of course, obviously, knowing me, I wasn't well prepared for this race, my first race back after being a bit sick. So I thought I'll just take an easy spin, see how it goes, and if it goes badly, I'll bail out, which I actually never do, and I should have known beforehand I wouldn't do that. But I stayed with them on the climb. It was a bit of a shock for the system, and it's the first race I'm using steering, so I feel like a total nitwit. But I must say, the steering actually makes the lines quite tight, and I was catching up in the downhills by just using the steering a bit more. That was quite exciting. I have to admit, I was having a lot of fun with the steering, and actually, this is where the A group catches us most of all. They came roaring from behind. And this is where the pace also became much faster. But it's still a downhill, so it wasn't a big problem. It would be nice to know exactly what the course is and where we're going, because you'll see in the end, I was surprised with the finish, and I was hanging around trying to think about what the finish would or could be.
I should have known.
We we had like 2 kilometers left to go, and I was hoping the finish would be after a long climb with a steady incline, but we had 2 more Ks to go, and we would go up the same climb we just went over, and wasn't prepared for that. That was a bit of a disaster moment, but we'll get there in a second. This is all flat, nothing to worry about. The race itself was not drastically fast at this moment. We were just cruising along at 273 watts, 286 watts, and most of all, I didn't want to be in the front. Realizing at this stage, I did not actually realize that the faster group of guys had joined us, and the pace was picking up a little bit. As you can see, the power to 327, 335. So I was hoping that the group would become smaller, and you could see that in the top screen there, that the group had broken up and we were gone in a small group followed by a larger group. So I think this was the A group. Looking at my results, there were a couple of Bs in here, or a couple of guys up to 690 racing score, but most of these guys now were A's, or the higher racing group. I'm not quite sure what to refer to them. I'm used to A's and B's. I will refer to the faster racing group as A's, which I'm used to, and I am a B. And this is a little climb, but the guys weren't really going fast here. I mean, we had a long way to go, and for the guys that knew the course, if you knew the course, you would have known to take it easy and ride a subdued race and not go crazy. That's what I was trying to do. Even though I did not know the course, I did not know what to expect. But the guys, 550 watts over here, that's nothing on this little climb. So it was really not going fast, even though the groups had broken up. You can see the B group coming up towards the climb, and this group is riding away. This was not too bad, and I was quite comfortable from this stage onwards, right close to the end. Maybe I was hanging around a little bit too much in the front afterwards, but I was scared of small little breaks in the group. So I was trying to stay a little bit in the front and watching my teammate, who actually watching my teammate from Poland, also a teammate of mine from Cryogen. He wasn't wearing the jersey. That's why I didn't actually see him. I realize now that he wasn't wearing his jersey. He was the guy with the orange cap in the bottom here, with the white jersey. Polish chap, and he's from Cryogen as well. And the reason it's so confusing for me is that he wasn't wearing his jersey, and subsequently I didn't realize that because I can't see that well. I can't see the names in the screen. Even with my glasses on, my laptop is quite small, and that could be something I can maybe get a bigger screen for the Zwift races and get like a total man cave where I can race. That seems like a good solution, because it is kind of where are we, who's there, are there A riders, are there B riders. If you can recognize someone's name and you know, hey, it's A rider, you feel much better. Because at some stages here I was really suffering, because I thought to myself, hey, this B group is really motoring away, but it was an A group with some B riders in it. Even though I started B, the group obviously changed. So this is a stage race, and I was just doing stage 2. I haven't been very healthy, so it's my first race back. I haven't raced, I think, now for 3 weeks. I did one team time trial, that was it. But because of the absolute hoarseness in my voice, or the macho-ness in my voice, I'm still not 100%. So I wanted to take it easy, which I was doing. I wasn't going to the front or doing any breakaways or doing crazy stuff. I've realized with Zwift, unfortunately, it doesn't mean how tough you are if you're in a breakaway or you go solo. Um, Lately, Zwift is more about racing points. Everyone wants as many racing points as possible. You don't want to take a dive in racing points. Um, so it doesn't matter if you go solo. It doesn't matter if you ride in the front. It does not seem to matter how you race. It's all about the finishing score and where you finish. And that's what happened in this race as well. I was right in the front towards the last 2 kilometers when I realized, hey, we have to go up that climb again that we started off with. And I did not calculate that as the finishing spot. I thought the finishing line was a bit earlier. So that makes, for me, I like to go solo, try to break away, those kind of stuff. I used to like doing that, but it makes no sense anymore because it's purely about getting racing points and moving up the ladder. The more points you have, Zwift thinks to think you're a better rider. So it doesn't mean you are the better rider. It just means you know how to sit in the group and you know how to sprint. Um, there aren't many tactics. Everyone's just sitting, and slowly but surely the group's getting smaller and smaller. No one's trying to go alone. No one's being macho about going on a breakaway. The clever riders are just staying in a group, saving energy for the last kilometer and making sure they finish as high as possible and that they get racing points. Zwift at the moment for me is all about racing points, and that makes the cycling and the racing very boring because we're all just sitting over here having a great time. There's not much happening. Slowly but surely guys are dropping off the back, and we're going on to a little crit circuit soon. You'll see the guys just dropping off the back one by one. So the racing is hard, but it's not really like let's go on a breakaway and maybe get joined by one or two guys and let's see if we can stay away. No one's doing that because no one wants to be dropped. They want to be there in the end, so it's saving your energy for the last bit. I think it'll be handy if Zwift Racing also thought about your way of racing. Did you close the gap? Did you chase someone down? Did you go solo yourself? Did you attack? Even though if it didn't work and they got you back, the kind of racing should also be taken into consideration when it comes to racing points. I think that will be fantastic. Of course, I can understand that it's difficult for Zwift to be able to do that, but I think if they see surges in your power, I don't know, I don't understand the system, but I can imagine that this is the easiest way. They are struggling with the system already, that it won't be that easy for them to just consider attacks, closing gaps, time trialing over a gap, stuff like that. It must be very difficult for Zwift to be able to work out in a race situation, seeing that there are so many races. But that will be great if that could be taken up in the racing score. The way you race should also be important, I find. I like attacking. I like those kind of stuff. So for me, that will be great. Just sitting over here, excuse me, and waiting for the group to thin out. That's not really exciting. So now we're coming to a really steep climb. So everyone's just waiting. Look at the power just dropping down. This is the one place where you don't want to be dropped.
Glasses are a bit of a bother.
I was struggling to see out of my glasses because they were fogging up. So I couldn't really see the names, and without the glasses I can't see the names either, but anyway, who cares, that's my problem. This is a really steep little section,
I
so
thought this is the
I
back.
didn't want to be in the front.
A bit of draft, but too much.
And then over here I start putting the power down to make sure I get over the climb with the guys. Not, they weren't going fast. People that knew the course knew that you shouldn't burn your mattress at this stage of the race. So it was fun. It was really not too bad. 273 watts, 396, nothing to worry about. So you don't really see it, but the group's thinning out, and we're going to do a couple of crit. I think 3 laps or 4 laps of a crit course, um, and I actually thought the finish would be there, so I was quite surprised when that turned out not to be. You even see me at some stage going like this, saying 2 more of these laps, but we took the same direction we just came from. We went back on that road towards the finish. That was quite a surprise. And this is a little climb on the crit course, so I thought the finish would be on top of this little section, but as I said, that was not the case. But this is not a steep climb, it wasn't even really hard. But at this stage of the race, after 15 minutes, the ladies and gentlemen were dropping off the back like flies, and the group was getting smaller. I was quite surprised by that, but I can imagine at some stage you think, oh gosh, 1 more of these laps. It's quite a nice little crit course. I think personally it's just not hard enough. Maybe the other way around is harder. I thought this was the finish after a couple of laps of the crit circuit, of course. My Christmas cup. It's a bit small, but it's okay, isn't it? Well, actually, there's someone going off the front there, drying a little bit, so I didn't even see that during the race. So I really can't see too much. They're using steering, which is kind of stupid, I find. I'm not a big fan of the steering. It's my first race with steering because I have to have it for the ladder races. But I do see now that if you do have steering, it does make it a bit easier for yourself. It does really allow you to be in the draft a bit more. And I saw once I used it, and the race realized I had steering, it actually started steering for me or put me in the right spot to draft. I didn't have to fight for drafting. Usually I'm on the outside of group on the right or on the outside of the group on the left. And this time I just had perfect draft, and it's like almost as if Zwift realizes you have steering and looks for the best position for you to sit in to be able to get the draft. So this is the second time we're going over, and as you can see I'm perfectly in the draft. I wasn't really using my steering, but the draft for me was always perfect. We're catching some lap riders, which you don't often see in a race.
Don't go too hard.
And if you look at the top screen, there are more lap riders coming up, and there are riders dropping off the back as well. So each time I went over that little bump, some riders dropped off the back. The group became smaller and smaller. So, but I think for a real crit race, this really is not steep enough. But it's fun. This is the stage I started counting the kilometers, and I tried to figure out how long the lap was. And I thought to myself, hey, we're going to finish over here, maybe 4 more laps of this. And once again, I'm in a perfect position for drafting. Usually I'm thrown off to the sides, but with the steering activated, and I used it in the beginning on the descent, after the first climb, I always seem to be in the right position, and that's really cool. So if you look carefully, my teammate with the Polish rider with the Polish flag, um, if I realized at this stage that he was a cryogen rider, I could have looked at the names, I would have known that immediately, but of course he didn't have his cryogen kit on, so I didn't know. Then I would have realized that I was in the A group now. But there were 6 other B riders over here as well. So we were 7 B riders in this group, and the rest were A's. So a couple of A's have dropped off now as well. You can see the group, I'm almost at the back of the group, is becoming smaller and smaller. We have 6.9 Ks to go, so I was figuring out 3 laps to go of the circuit without knowing that there was a bit of a surprise installed, but yeah, not too bad, not too bad. The guys are motoring on this little section at the moment. Not this section, sorry, just on the downhill. They were really going for it. So I was struggling to hang on a little bit, but nothing drastic or crazy. Those guys ahead of us now are back markers and they are being lapped. So we were coming up to a big group to lap them. And if this ever happens to you in a race, what the faster group tends to do is to really motor through the back group, because at that stage you don't know who's who anymore. So if you come up to us to back markers or a slower group and you lap them in a race, always make sure once you hit the back of that group to really put the power down and get through that group as soon as possible, and then see where you are, because once you hit that group no one knows who's who anymore, and it's normal for the faster group guys to really put down the hammer. So you have to do that as well. I'm turning 389, 373 watts here to see what's happening to the groups, where they're going, making sure I'm in the front. No matter what group forms, it will be the faster group, but you have to make sure that you're in the front and you're not surprised by sitting in the slower group while the front group rides away. So once again, once you get to back markers and you're lapping them, put down the power, get through the group as fast as possible, stay in the front, and let the faster group catch up with you instead of you having to play catch up. That's a crucial moment in a race where you lap slower riders or back markers, especially a huge group. It can be very confusing, so stay awake, be on top of it, and make sure you're in the right group. So at this stage, I figured out 2 more of these laps should make it to the finish line, because I still thought we would finish over here. Still catching back markers, no problem, just 1 rider, 2 riders by themselves, so it's not confusing, don't have to worry about that. Some of the guys had to work hard from the back to stay in the group. So at this stage I thought 2 more laps. 2 more laps should do it. I'm showing two wise arse. The wise arse on the bottom showed two fingers in the air, and I thought two more laps, but I was in for a surprise at this stage. So I was thinking, hey, this is just kind of this is an uphill where I can really I can do okay. Still thinking all the time, God, this B group is riding really hard. But I got to stay with them, not knowing that there were A riders in there as well. I thought to myself, hey, I might have a chance here of a top 5, top 10. I'm not really good at sprinting, but if it goes uphill, I have a bit of a chance. So I thought, hey, stick to the front. Um, you might get a chance to do a really good result um, and get some serious good racing points. But yeah, that worked out a little bit different in the end, but not too bad. Not too bad. We'll see in a while. This two more. Now I thought two more laps. We're almost there, and suddenly we veered off to the left. I was taken a bit by surprise. It's my teammate in the white and the orange cap from Cryogen right in front of me, taking off like crazy. And I thought, oh God, why are they going so fast? But I didn't notice my teammate at that stage, by the way. So only when I saw the video afterwards, I realized it's a Cryogen rider that I know. Well, I know his name, I don't know him personally, but he's an A rider, has like 850 racing points, where I have 660 racing points, so he's really good. So now I started figuring out for myself. I knew there was a finish line at the top of this climb, and I knew this climb suited me. So I was once again focusing on just staying in the group and staying in the front and being ready for the sprint at the top. And this is the kind of climb that suits me really well. So it's not a steep climb. It has a drag, you can ride with a big gear, and I can stand out the saddle and ride with a really big gear. So I knew at this stage, hey, I'm in for a good result over here. But I was miscalculating. See the guy going off the front there? So I thought this is definitely the finish. I was just sitting and waiting. And it's about at this stage, when I saw the top of the climb, that I realized you are wrong, man. The top of the climb cannot be the finish. And I was trying to sit down and figure out where the finish would be. And to my astonishment, I realized there's only one place that can be, and that's straight up the climb. And my legs were really a bit tired at this stage. As I said, first race back, I wasn't feeling very hunky-dory. I was stiff and not 100% yet. And once I figured I had to do that little climb again, it was like someone hit me on my head with a brick wall. That's my teammate on the right with a white jersey. So I was hoping when we started off with this climb that the top would be the finish. So at this stage I was a bit despondent and I was like, oh, I was hoping this banner was the finish, but it wasn't. I was a bit despondent and I thought, oh, just let them go, but I thought I'll just stay with them until the climb and then do my best. At this stage I really didn't have the legs to go with them, and usually it should be no problem. That I wasn't feeling great should be no problem, because I thought this is my group of riders with the same kind of racing score. But I didn't know they were A's, so I was like, oh God, why can't I stay with my own group? But this Polish rider behind me is a really good climber. You can see him taking off. And he's a teammate, of course, as I said, and if I knew it and I could see it properly, I would have known these are A's. A lot of them are A's. My legs here were shot. There was no way I was going with those guys. The whole group of riders were just too fast for me. So I crashed and burned in the last kilometer, and this is where I started looking behind me if there were any riders really coming up that could overtake me. I saw one guy that could overtake me. I thought, well, I'll try, but I saw nobody else, so I wasn't panicking that I would lose like 10 positions over here. Once again, it's all about race and score on Zwift, and unfortunately, you don't want too many guys passing you in the last 400 meters. But I saw no big groups coming from behind. I saw one guy coming from behind, an HISP rider, I thought it was. But at this stage, I was just trying to get to the finish, and there he comes by. I had nothing. I was just a dead doornail, hanging on like heck. And I looked behind me, I saw no big groups. I saw some guys coming, but I wasn't sure it was a group. But they were too far off to really get me with 200 meters to go. I thought, hey, just get to the finish, first race back, job well done. Guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Till next time, I hope some of you guys like this kind of stuff. I know some of you do, and I can imagine some of you don't, but bear with me, it's going to be spring soon again. Here's the finish. Job well done, and the results, I am 7th in my group of riders.